My name is David Hill, and when they ask me to do my introduction first, I always get a little scared about that because I never know how much you want to know about me. And if I told you everything about me, if you would really like me when I was finished. So I asked my wife when I left how much I could say, and she said very little. But I was born in Louisiana in 1947 and moved to Texas in May of 47 as well. So I barely hit the ground there. My grandparents were from Gilmer, Texas, and my mother was from Texas as well. So, but my dad he was in the Seabees, and that's how I got to Louisiana. He was discharged in California. He and mother reunited. That's where I was born, and all of our family lived in Texas. I went to high school, and when I graduated from high school, I decided I was going to go to junior college. I wanted to go to South Plains Junior College in Levelland, Texas. My roommate, I think, was Pat Puckett from Paducah, Texas. I drove up in the 60 Falcon with an ironing board sticking out the back window. And when I drove in, Pat was roping sawhorses in the parking lot. So I'm from Houston, and when I got there, I was trying to figure out what I'd done with my life. But that didn't work out, and I got a draft notice to go to El Paso to take a physical for a Vietnam conflict at the time, and didn't get to stay in college or to complete my college, but so I went to work, and I've been working ever since. Moved to Waxahachie about 13, 14 years ago. My children live here, and so I have four children, I think, live here. I have to remember that. And 16 grandkids and 5 or 6 great-grandkids. Mickey and I have been married for 45 years. And Mike Leith, Dr. Mike Leith, some people know him, is the fellow that asked me to run for city council about 7 years ago. He asked me if I would, and he said, if you will you commit at least 10 years to service to the city? And I thought he was really joking, but he was serious about it. And that's what I committed to do when I first ran for city council, was to stay as long as I was healthy and able to serve, and be a consistent council member. So with that, I appreciate you guys having us here tonight. Thank you. First of all, I guess we'll start with growth and management. Everybody probably understands the city is growing. This year we grew 5%, which was amazing, but a little over 700 building permits for single resident homes were applied for this year. Last year was about the same thing. I think we had 700 homes being built. So the population last year was about 4.2%. This year in our budget is 5%. As far as managing the growth, we just did a impact fee land use analysis study in the last couple of weeks. So when you start looking at land use and how you're going to be able to throttle it back if you choose to, it's going to be where we have utilities and not so much where we have land, because we have plenty of land. I think in the ETJ there's about 95 acres that are 95 square miles, not acres. 95 square miles of acreage that's developable out there. But we have to get utilities to it. Some places we have water, but most places we don't have sewer, so that's going to be an issue. As far as the downtown area, I mean, it's pretty much built out, so we're not looking for anything there. We have, that's kind of our historic place. That's the sweet spot of our city. That's the heart of Waxahachie. And I think everybody at the table will probably agree that that's what we want to keep as it is right now, a place that we call home, which is Waxahachie Downtown Historic District. The rest going north toward 287, 35, 77, all those corridors are being opened up, and we're getting water across to the, I guess, the west side of 35. So that's going to spawn some growth. But we don't have to, we're in a position now. Years ago, I think several things were built here, and maybe we're a little regretful that they happened then, but now we're a little bit more selective in the development that does come here. We can look at what kind of economic impact it's going to have on the city, and if we want to pursue it, we can pursue it. City budget has increased obviously. 2008, I think, it was 25 million. This year it's 45 million. 47% of that budget is for police and fire. Our ad valorem taxes were up a little bit this year in spite of COVID. Our sales tax actually was up this year in spite of the pandemic, which was surprising to us. Most cities showed a pretty good steep decline in their sales tax.
David, a point of clarification. Did you talk about the difference between ad valorem and sales tax? Because I'm not sure everybody that hears that actually knows the technical difference.
Is your property tax.
Okay.
So, and I think we talked about that someplace else. Is that included in the sales tax? The sales tax is 8.25%. That state gets 6.25. We get 2 cents back on that. But Doug at Economic Development, he'll tell you that 2 cent sales tax. Our sales tax was 18 million this year. So that's $900 million worth of retail sales that took place in the city of Waxahachie during the pandemic. $900 million. We were going to call him $1 billion Barnes at one time, but he didn't stay long enough to get the $1 billion. But we're real close to that. The city continues to grow, and with that, you're going to see sales tax increase. There's so much to the budget. I mean, we just got the new budget. It took us 6 months to put a budget together, so every year we go through the process of doing that. All the department heads get together and we sit down in a room similar to this with every staff head and every member of the staff and the city council. And we start off with a preliminary budget. We work through it, and we have enhancements that we will add if we can. If we can't, we don't. But we work within the guidelines of the funds that we're afforded through our sales tax and ad valorem tax collections. So a lot of people probably think we just go out and draw up a budget and then we try to figure out how to fund it. But we really don't. We kind of know what our funding is at the very beginning. We know what our appraisal district is giving us on our appraisal. And this year's budget was different, obviously. 36% of our appraised value was under protest when we sat down at the table to start building our budget on our first workshop. We normally go through 2 workshops each year. It's open to the public. It's at the Civic Center. There's 150 chairs in there for the public to come to. And in the 7 years that I've done this, and 10 years that Kevin has done it, and 18 years that Doug has done it, there's the only people there may be Andrew or somebody that's recording what we talked about, but no people from the public, which is it's not a good thing. I mean, the process is transparent, but you have to be a participant as well. I guess the other thing is the vision for the city. That's kind of where you want to go to. I came from a big city, which is Houston, and I enjoyed it. I love driving fast, and I'm very competitive. So with 4 million people on the road at any given time, you can enjoy life to its fullest there. But living in a big city, you really don't catch a vision. You just become one who exists in the community. So Mickey and I came here several years to visit our children, and then when we moved up here, the first week I was here, we got here for homecoming parade, and I sat on a curb downtown on Ferris and watched my first homecoming parade. 63 years old, and watching the very first one. And I sat there and I got a tear, and Mickey said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, we don't call it crying in Texas, but it's an emotional moment because it was one of those experiences that you've always heard about them, you've thought about them, but you never had. And there was, I think in everybody there's a hardness. I'm starting to philosophize a little bit here, but in everybody there's a place that is void and in need of something. And when I sat and watched that, and the kids waving, throwing candy, soft candy, so wouldn't hurt anybody. That was very emotional. And then one of my granddaughters was in the court for homecoming, so that was very special. But those are moments, our 4th of July celebrations of veterans. All that stuff is things that we're aware of, but you may not participate in. That's kind of what made Waxahachie home. So my vision was and is to preserve that, obviously, because that is the heart of Waxahachie. And then everything past Sycamore is up for expansion and control growth. So, our tax rate, though, I think may have been 2010 when the tax rate went from 61 to 68. Kevin, you can correct me on that, but been 68 for the last 8 or 10 years, 68 cents on the 100. This year with Senate Bill 2 and the cap on our rollback, it was a time when we were able to reduce our 68 cents down to 66 to give a little bit of relief. But in real dollars, to a $200,000 house on 2 pennies, it's really only about $30 credit that you'll get on that house, on the city portion. Then, of course, the school district has their tax rate, which is a little bit higher than ours. And the county has one that's 32, 33 cents. So the total is about $240, I think, right now for all the taxes. Could be a little less than that, maybe. But we're going to 10,000 pennies. But generally speaking, it is that. So how does that affect the city? Every penny is about $450,000 in collection on that overall tax. So if we cut 2 pennies, we lose 900. If we cut 4, we lose $1.8 million, and it just continues that way. If we went back to the rollback with no new tax revenue we have now, they renamed everything. That allows you, and people are asking for us to do that or proposing that. But what that does, it takes you back to, you can only raise as much money as you did last year, based on current appraisal value with this year's. So if you only raised $18 million last year in ad valorem tax, that's all you'll be able to raise the following year, which makes stagnant services. You don't add anything. There's no inflation included in that. There's nothing. So when we're doing our budget, all that stuff you take into consideration.
Just a point of clarification, when you say nothing, that's no staff raises, nothing across any of the categories of the budget.
Everything stops, right? I mean, but it doesn't stop. You do what you did last year. If you say we're going to do that for next year, then you did what you did 2 years ago. So if you stop it, and there's no increase whatsoever, then everything stays the same as it was. Okay? It's kind of hard to really understand that, but life as you know it now, whatever we're doing, the amenities, the growth, the lifestyle enhancements. Patrick was talking about going out and visiting people and getting into the dirt with these people. You're not going to believe this, but as a retired person, that's all I do. I'm a builder by trade. So everything I look at is if it's TCEQ, if it's OSHA related or whatever. I mean, I kind of go through and I survey things. Kevin and I walked out to a wastewater treatment facility that we had here over at Hopewell Park. It was a 600 square foot building with 19 guys in that room. 600 square feet, 19 workers in a sewer building that smelled like sewer. They had a wire spool for a kitchen table and folding chairs with sewer machines that are in there for cleaning out sewage lines. And Kevin and I looked at it and said, this ain't right. And we said, this ain't right. It isn't right. It wasn't right. It ain't right. And so we got a new design for a new building, built a brand new facility where the guys can go in and the ladies can go in. They have showers, they can actually clean up before they go home. And so that's, we did that, and there was another one over at the cemetery that one of the guys over there was in the place where they keep all the lawnmowers, and they put an air conditioning window unit inside the building to suck air out of where the lawnmower, the gas is, into his office. So I'm looking at it thinking that's kind of crazy. So we went back and just talked to the city manager, and they put new air conditioning in the building so that you're not sucking fumes from gas cans into a workspace.
Now bring it back to the topic.
I wasn't
City staffing levels. Are you
City
happy?
staffing.
We're happy with those, need to decrease them where are we with city staffing
Now,
levels?
in '08, there was a time when we had to lay people off, and there was a time of rebuilding that, and we're still, as the city continues to expand, services expanding. And I think the ratio is 8.88 right now, if you look on our current budget. But 5 or 6 years ago, it was 8.83. So we're staying kind of consistent in our ratio of personnel per capita, per 100,000 or per 1,000 on our staffing. But here's what people need to understand, this one little thing, that we hired a city engineer, James Gregory. We used to farm that out and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on that one item. And we hired James, who's an engineer, and now we have a second engineer and one in training that take all that work. And so the money that we were farming out to other engineering firms now, it's just it's saved in future budgets, but it's now converted into payroll.
30 seconds on economic development.
Doug, 18 years, I can't top Doug, but I'll tell you that, we made an economic development trip, Doug and I did, with a group of people that changed our outlook on life as it could be in Waxahachie. So now, when we see people that come and say they have a data center that's 50 employees and 500 million, we look at something like that and say, well, it may not be exactly, where we want to go, because we would like to have more than 50 employees. We'd like to have 250 employees. So you're looking a little anxious at me.
20 seconds. 20 seconds. I'm trying to be fair and equitable with the time.
And I don't really have to say a whole bunch. I mean, when Doug gets on economic development,
that's his expertise.
That's his expertise. It's really not mine. All I know is that what the people told us that we went to see overseas, they said, David, if we're looking at Waxahachie as one of 4 cities in the United States to move our facility, trust me, other people are as well.
Sure.
So that gave us a different vision and a different outlook on the house.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And of course, I'm David Hill. I'm the current mayor, and that's position 1 on the ballot. So I appreciate your vote, and those that are supporting me, I appreciate you as well. Having family here leaves me here. So with my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren now growing up playing soccer, I'll be here for, it looks like, maybe another 45, 50 years at least to be able to see that happen. But it's been a joy to serve with Kevin on City Council. He doesn't toot his horn, but when you're president of COG, I mean, that's a big thing. A lot of things we wouldn't have if what Kevin's strength, and I want to thank Kevin tonight. The other thing I want to do is mention Andrew, who fought COVID and scared us all, and he's back healthy and photographing us tonight. So
that's Andrew Branco with the Waxahachie Center, for those who may not see him on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I can see.
Side.
That's amazing. And it's good to be singing in it, Andrew. So we're glad you're doing well. My wife is the same as Kevin's. I'm a retired builder. I don't build anymore. I built a couple of houses just to get coffee money and keep my rent paid. But I've devoted my time, and it's 8 hours, 10 hours a day, to the city of Waxahachie until my term is up. And when the voters decide that time comes, then I will gladly go to the House and find something else to do. But I appreciate how you support us in the past, and we look for your vote this coming November.